was going over, Angelica, if you remember Angelica, one of the students, we were just going over, okay, so the test date is on January 16th and 17th. We still have significant amount of time, but just taking the time to actually put on paper or digitally how you're going to most efficiently spend your time if you are taking the January test. And even for those, let me talk separately for a second, for those that are not taking January, okay, you have this course now, what's the most effective way to study? Because I think a lot of people that are not taking January have learned effective ways to study. So if you're taking February, what do you want your schedule to look like? In the sense of, this is what I want to be doing each week to drill and do sections, my practice tests, hold myself accountable. But to speak just to the students taking January right now, you do not have to, I think my biggest thing is I don't want people to stress out by the unknown. And sometimes if we put together a plan, we lower our anxiety because we actually, hey, I'm going to stick to the plan. Does anybody else feel like, well, I didn't study enough, so then you feel guilty for not studying enough, so then you don't sleep or you worry or etc. Or the opposite, you overstudy because you're like, well, I need to do this, this, and this. And it's like, no, you don't need to kill yourself to study. You can just have your plan. And like, if I do my work for today, that's enough. The other big thing is I want people to go hard before the test, but you do not have to go hard for 6 weeks, 5.5 weeks straight. So I want people to truly consider taking at least 4 days off for Christmas. Completely like taking a break. And so for these next 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, look forward to that. Work really hard these 2.5 weeks, knowing that you get that break, and then come back and study hard for 3 weeks before the test. So you don't get burnt out right before the test. And it doesn't have to be these 4 days, whatever that is for you. I'm just like, I think a lot, even take 5 days if you want. You're not going to lose things in 5 days.
How do you tackle New Year's?
I think that can be your normal day off, like take a day off a week. But yeah, take 2 days off. I don't care. But I think Katie's a really good example of this, where she, I think, was overstudied before her November test. And I don't think she's
I don't know what you mean.
I don't think she necessarily psyched herself out. I think she went to her test a little tired, where if she would have maybe gave herself more room to breathe, she could have, how I say, give yourself the space to learn or give yourself the space to perform. Trust the plan. And so I want to take like 5 minutes. And so if you're not taking January, I want you to think about how many hours you want to study a week. Like, think about what your schedule is and what you want to actually commit to. And for those taking January, I want you to think, what days do you want you to take your practice test? Are you going to do time sections? Are you going to do reading comp sections? I'm going to show you the one. While you're working, I'm going to pull up one that I did with Angelica, where we actually just went through and labeled questions per day. On Tuesday, I'm going to drill 15 flaw questions. And then like this week, I'm working on ordering games or whatever that is, so that that we don't have to be perfect at everything. I think sometimes when we're studying, we just try to do everything at once. Where no, I'm going to break it down to little small mountains, and I'm going to get better at very specific things leading because these 5 weeks are crucial, but it's still a ton of time. So let's go ahead and do that. If you want, just like take a couple of notes. Let's take like 3 or 4 minutes just to write that down. And I'm going to pull up an example. So if you see here, we literally just went through kind of similar to what we've been doing. So it's no crazy science here at all, but we literally just went through together and labeled different questions per day. We gave her day off, that's Sunday. And then we just said what she's going to focus on those weeks. And in addition to doing this, what she's going to do leading up, starting the 19th, she's going to take 4 practice tests before her test on the 16th. And she's going to do 2 LR sections a week, 1 reading comp section and 2 logic game sections per week. And whatever she feels like has to go can go, but we're just putting something on paper that she's going to be doing actually less sections than she would have done in her previous time that she took her test. But this is because she's trying to just get a little bit faster on certain question types. And since she's going to be doing her practice test, we're not going to do as many sections. For some people, this might look different. You might be doing more sections than question types. But whenever it's main conclusion day, she literally might only do 10 main conclusion questions. And then we're going to reevaluate it kind of after the holidays. But, and you can see that she's doing flaw questions like every 4 days. So we know we put in her weaknesses here, and we just put it. I know it sounds silly and cheesy, but I think it's offering her a lot of peace to kind of just trust that she can put in this time, and then she's good for the day. Did anybody think of anything creative on their paper, or some things that they know they need to work on, so they put it down, or etc.? Cora, you're on mute.
I did.
All right, Jasmine, can you share? And then Cora, you were on mute, so we couldn't hear you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I have one that I've been steadily working with, that we've been.
I would say, I feel like you probably have, yeah, you're probably yours is probably more organized than the one that we came up with.
Do you want me, is Jasmine sharing or?
Yeah, Jasmine, you go first.
No, I was just saying that I was writing down, like, when I do my prep test on Saturday of each week, whichever question types that I got wrong from that prep test, that's what I was going to drill for the following week.
Oh, that's excellent. The other things to consider is, if you're leading up to your week, and this is going to look different for everybody, but who's in your corner that can help you? In the sense, like if you have kids, if you have things like other people, can you plan out for the next Saturday? Can you get a babysitter on Saturdays while you take your test? Or can you let your family know, hey, I know I'm normally not like this, but I'm going to be having more time to myself right now because my test is on this day. I have 4 weeks. It's not always going to be this way, but maybe tell them in advance so that you kind of give yourself an excuse to share that. Just really think about, take a minute now and just think about, who are some people in your corner that you can reach out to and just share what your plan is. And just say, hey, please give me a little bit of grace this month while I work towards my goal. Because nothing's worse than when people are like, oh, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? And you're like, well, I guess I'm just studying. It doesn't have to be done now. But if we always say yes, then we're never going to get our studying done. But sometimes if we let people know in advance, then they're like, oh, wait, I forgot they're studying. And once again, this is going to look different for everybody. All right, Cora, do you want to share yours?
Sure. I mean, it's still a work in progress. Yes. So this is what I had been putting together for December. And it was like, just to kind of get more into, it was just doing some different types of games. And so these are different. I think we had started out doing linear games and worked our way up to doing hybrid games and grouping games. And then going into, so I might end up switching this up a little bit, but it's just kind of keeping up with when we're, if we're doing bottom up questions or top down questions, keeping those together. And then putting like an RC passage in there. And then, so I got Christmas break. And then and then optional study day for Christmas Eve for anybody who's going out. But I'm like, if you're not going out, we're still going to do RC. And then going into January, it's pretty much, I mean, it's not completely hardcore, but we do have, I got full practice test days going on, and then a rest day right before the test.
Yes. Okay. I've preached it. I am not huge on taking full prep tests all the time leading up.
Yeah.
But we haven't done them. Try to get 3 or 4 in before this test, not because they're going to be your best studying, but you have to practice sitting there that long.
Yeah. And I think so far I've got 2. Do you think I probably need to get more, or 2's okay?
I'm telling people, try to do 4 between now and your test.
Gotcha. So I'll probably do like keeping like what you were saying is these next 2 weeks before Christmas hardcore. So prep test the 12th, the 19th, then Christmas is a break, and then prep test January 2nd, January 9th.
Right. And once again, that's different for, are you studying full time? Are you working etc.?
Oh yeah, I work full time and study.
Yeah. So for people that are, most of you are part-time studiers, full-time employers. So 4 should be your goal. Some other students will take probably 4 the 2 weeks leading up to it. But they're full-time, like they're studying full-time. That's different. But you just have to practice like so many, and your worst section, try do that one last. So for me, reading comp is my worst section. I do it 3rd. So I'm tired when I do it. Because
on week the 80s.
What?
When should we unleash the 80s?
The 80s. Yep. These practice tests, you're allowed to do the 80s. Is this helpful? I don't want to waste all of class time talking about this, but I just feel like putting some of these practices in place is going to be the difference between us.
And if anybody wants, do you want me to share this, or does anybody want?
Send it. Yeah, I love that. Like, send it.
Okay.
And if you want to, maybe that's the last homework, send me your calendar 3 days from now. It doesn't have to be an actual calendar, but send me your plan before the January test. And like, some people, you do not have to be as detailed as Cora. Like, I love that. I would be that. I mean, you see my whiteboard? I would be like that. But I want you to tell me what your plan is, that we put thought into this. And one thing, like, hey, this is 1 or 2 proactive things that I'm going to do to make this happen. Whether that's reaching out to your mom, your dad, letting your kids know, asking your husband, hey, can you watch the kids? I know, like, I will take them and I will pull my weight in February if you help me in January. I don't know what that looks like. I've never been married, never had kids, but whatever that looks like, we're so close.
That's my conversation daily.
Yeah, I know. You're like, that's why he's ready for this to be done.
It's like my 14-year-old is keeping my son down, and she says she wants a new anime book. I'm like, oh Lord, like, I have to buy her a new book to just babysit.
No, I think that, yeah, awesome. I didn't realize how selfish you have to be personally sometimes, like, while studying for the test. Not that we're selfish people, but sometimes you have to be really selfish with your time, which ultimately you'll help more people. But all right, awesome. Y'all are really, 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 really close. The other thing to consider is don't be afraid to sign up for the February tests too. If you haven't taken them a ton, just for one, like if you struggle with anxiety, sometimes it's nice to know it's not one and done. And 2, take it, apply with your January score, and then use February to renegotiate your scholarships. And that that also looks different for different people depending on what your goals are. You can